Do you have something to say? Have you ever thought about doing a podcast but felt overwhelmed with all the choices out there? Or like me, you have a budget and cannot afford the annual fees? Here's what I want you to do. Go to your Play Store and look for Anchor. Anchor is a free podcast app where you too can start your own podcast for free. And yes, it does work because I too am using Anchor. If you're listening to my voice, you have Anchor to thank. You can do everything right from your cell phone. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You'll be glad you did. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you would like to be a guest on the show and share your story, please email me at lostinside.info@gmail.com and put guest requests in the subject line. That's lostinside.info@gmail.com and put guest requests in the subject line. I'll talk to you soon. If you need to talk, I always say don't keep things inside. Talk to someone, anyone. If you cannot find someone near you, I'm always willing to listen. You can always email me anytime at lostinside.info@gmail.com. Let's talk about it. If you would like to support the show, please visit my website at lostinside.info. There you will find links to my Patreon, merchandise, and free ebooks of Lost Inside and Let It Be. I appreciate any help you can provide. Together we can end the stigma. Hello, I am your host, Max Power, and you are listening to Lost Inside, the podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about mass shootings, mental health, and red flag laws. As of the date of my recording this, we are 2 days out from the El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio mass shootings. Full disclosure, I do carry a gun on a daily basis. I carried one for a living for the past 12 plus years. I always carry one with me, and I am a firm believer in all the amendments, not just the Second Amendment. I have been called a gun nut. I have been called all sorts of names, but I'm one of these people who truly understands what it means, why it was written, and how it actually protects us. It's not outdated. It's not needs to be changed. And every time that there's one of these shootings, one of two things, almost both of them happens, is the call for more stricter gun control, which will do absolutely nothing. And the second thing that really gets me is the blaming of mental health. I'm just going to come right out and say it. These acts are evil acts. They are acts of evil. What needs to be blamed is evil, not a mental illness, not something that people don't understand, so they're going to use it as a boogeyman. That is the thing that is stated the most that scares me, because somebody who does have mental illnesses, or as I like to refer them to, mental afflictions. I have anxiety. I have bipolar. I have manic depression. I have learned to live with these things and had to learn how to hide them because of the age that I grew up in the areas that I grew up in. Also being a minority, it was not looked upon that you were allowed to have problems. I was literally told this numerous times growing up. You're not allowed to have problems. Now that I'm an adult in my 40s, screw that. I know we're allowed to have problems. Everybody has problems that they have to deal with. Everybody has issues that they have to deal with, whether it is a mental affliction or not. And to make people who have mental afflictions the boogeyman, that's just like a mob starting up a fire and going after Frankenstein when he hasn't done anything yet, all because of how he looks. I'm sorry, people don't want to address the issue because everybody has evil in their heart. It's part of being human. We deal with it on a daily basis. We struggle with it. We fight it. Some people more so than others. But that's what scares the shit out of people. They don't want to admit that. So instead of blaming evil for these evil acts, no, they want to look at other things, especially things that they do not have, and mental illness is the scapegoat. They throw it under umbrella of mental illness. I was even told, read about it. Anybody who does anything like this is mentally ill, and if it's left untreated, they're gonna do things like this. I'm sorry. What have you lived with this? No. Have you studied this? No. A lot of therapists and psychologists that I've interacted with, me personally have interacted with, they come to the same mindset, the same conclusions. Why? Because they read about it. I make no bones about I do not always trust therapists and psychologists. They're given way too much power for not truly understanding what it is that they're trying to treat. I'm sorry. I get that they had years and years of training, read it in a book, but I'm going to repeat something that happened in my introduction to psychology class that I went back and forth with my professor, and at the time I just turned 40. The professor, not even 25, couldn't make it a year in the real world after graduation before she had to come back to school and get a teaching job because she could not handle working with people with mental illnesses out in the real world, which is what she studied for. So while we're discussing depression and how the different things that people feel and what the book is saying, and other people saying, well, I thought it was like this, or I heard that this happens and that happens when somebody's depressed, or if they have bipolar and they want to do this. Why is it they do that? They're making it all out to be scary boogeymen people. And here I said, that's not how it works. And the professor looked at me straight face and said, well, who has the degree? Who's the teacher? I'm sorry. I've been living with it for 40 years. Almost twice as long as you have been alive. And you think you're going to tell me what it feels like to go through these depressive states when I have bipolar issues, when my storms brew and they hit, and everything else that happens because you read about it in a book? I'm sorry, that's the same as me being a man telling you as a woman, I know everything that is happening to you when you go through your menstrual period, when you're ovulating, when you're having those cramps and those pains. That's like me saying I know every single thing you're going through because I read about it in a book. I can read and read all I want to. I will never fully get to understand what a woman goes through when she's going through that. So for people who do not have mental afflictions and I get it. You want to sympathize. You want to be empathetic towards us. But to say that that is a big kick in the face to me. It's a slap in the face. You don't. As much as you may want to, you don't. You don't know what these demons are like inside that attack on a daily basis. Some days are better than others. Some days it's hard to even get out of bed. But to keep going forward, you don't understand the strength that it truly takes to keep going forward every day. And when we talk about suicide, you don't understand the actual strengths that it takes to follow through and commit the act. Like I've said before, I am a 4-time attemptee suicide survivor, whatever you want to call it. And the only reason why I'm still here today is because I know I do not have the strength to follow through in what it takes to finish that act because of everything that goes on in your head, everything that goes on through your mind. And the older you get, the harder it is because there's more and more things that are going through your mind, thinking about people, thinking about every little detail, people who aren't even significant in your lives, how you might affect their lives, how you might negatively affect someone's life, and the pain that you might put them through. Does it outweigh your pain? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And for people who want to say that, oh, they were a coward, they were weak, that's why they took their lives, that tells me you have no idea what that is like. You have no inkling of what goes on through somebody's mind at that stage when they're on that edge, ready to go over, and the things that will bring them back from that edge. Believe me, we are harder on ourselves. We are worse about being down on ourselves and criticizing ourselves than you can ever imagine being towards us. It's just the way we are. It's the way we are wired. Now, yes, these were evil acts. And every time there's a mass shooting, I cringe, not because of people want to take away my guns. It's because people want to lock me up without due process, without understanding anything, and calling me evil just because I have a mental affliction. No matter what it is, I don't have as many as my daughter has. I don't have as many as some other people that I've met. But I still have a few mental afflictions that hit me. And they hit me hard. And people always say, well, you're always smiling or you're always trying to make people laugh. Yeah, but that's also hiding and masking the pain. Because when people ask me, how are you doing? Whether they're just meaning medically or anything else, that is the worst question that I want to hear. It makes me cold inside. I stop and freeze for a moment because I don't know how to answer that. Because honestly, if you got my honest, real answer, you wouldn't like it. Because of everything that's going on in my head and everything that I'm struggling with on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't stop. It doesn't go away. Even with people who take medication, it doesn't stop. It may help to slow it down. It may numb it for a little while, but it will not stop it. It will not stop these ideas. It will not stop these dark emotions. It just does not stop it. But we can still function in society. We're not something to be dismissed. We're not all evil people. We're not bad. We're not people that need to be locked up, people that need to be watched and monitored. We're not the boogeyman. We're not coming to take you away. We're not coming to give you cooties or any other thing. The stupidity of it, the arrogance of it to think that anybody with a mental affliction is bad. It's not normal. You know what? The CDC actually says that if the true number of people that would admit to their mental afflictions, admit to what they have, the percentage would greatly jump from 10 to 12% up to 30 to 33%. Think about that for a minute. The true number of people with mental afflictions is more in the 30s. And the only reason why that number is not a solid number is because it's not reported. I had to hide for 12 plus years that I had mental afflictions. Otherwise, I would not be able to do my job. People would take away my license. There's a lot of things that would go wrong, a lot of things that would happen, and all because I was born this way. People don't understand that. I don't choose to be depressed. I don't choose to have bipolar. I don't choose to have anxiety that keeps me awake, that does not allow me to do normal things that everybody else does without the heightened senses of my mind going 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour nonstop all the time. It is literally exhausting. There's a reason why people who have anxiety the way that I do are exhausted all the time. If you want to have some idea about it, what I want you to do is stretch your arm out, bend it towards your head, and flex your bicep. Flex it, make it as hard as you can. And I want you to hold that for 60 seconds straight. I guarantee you can't do it without wanting to stop. 20 seconds in, 30 seconds in, your arm's going to be burning. You want to stop, but your body won't let you. That's what it's like inside my mind. That's going all the time. It does not stop. And people want to introduce red flag laws. Well, let's talk about red flag laws. What that means is anybody can report anybody else to a judge, to a court, to the police, and say that this person has a mental affliction. Say that they don't have one. But just because you don't agree with them, you say, oh, you must be mentally ill. Now, that person has to prove that there's nothing wrong with them. That person has to prove that they can function in society. That person has to prove without due process that they're not a threat. Just because somebody else disagreed with them and said it. And there's not going to be any consequences to anybody who makes an accusation, even if they know it's false. But that person's life is ruined. That person's life is going to be under a microscope. It's the same as somebody, because they're angry, says, this person raped me. There's people that use it all the time. And for people who really are victims, they can't get believed because people want to lie and use it as an excuse, or I'm going to mess up your life. I've been told this numerous times. Kids think that, oh, they can't be hit by adults. They can't be whipped by their parents. I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to call CPS. Well, you know what? When I was growing up, I got my ass whipped all the time. And for things that I didn't do. I'm with my cousins and they get in trouble. I should have been the one to stop him. I'm an older brother. My little brother got in trouble. I got whipped right alongside with him. I got punished along with him because I'm supposed to be the older one. I'm supposed to be looking out for him. I'm supposed to be looking out for my other family members. And I failed at that, so I got whipped. Now, most of the whippings I did get, I deserved. There's a lot that I didn't get that I deserved. So it's kind of a balanced out. In my day, that it wasn't called abuse to discipline a child. It was normal. Abuse is abuse, and you know it's abuse. Discipline is different, and a lot of people don't have it anymore. But even with that said, with these red flag laws, now I have to go back into living in fear. I just came out from not living in fear anymore, saying I don't care who knows that I have mental afflictions. I don't care who knows that I have depression. I don't care who knows that I have bipolar and anxiety. I don't care what people think when I write out my emotions. And yes, I've been told these are very dark emotions. Something is wrong with you. Yes, obviously something is not normal, but me writing it out is how I get it out. It's how I deal with my issues. Now, going back to the mass shootings and the mental health, I've actually sat in a few seminars where the FBI has stated that there are red flags for a potential mass shooter. And the one that I called the person out on because it was in my class of criminal justice, and that's what blew my mind. I said, so you're telling me somebody who goes to the range and will easily go through 100 rounds at a time, set up competitions, ask other people on the range, hey, how do I get better at this? How do I get faster at this? Do you want to have a little competition of see who's a better shot? Are you telling me, honestly standing there telling me, those are red flags of a mass shooter in the makings? He said, yes. I said, well, every police officer I know, every law enforcement officer I know goes to the range on a regular basis, will easily go through 50 rounds to 100 rounds, depending on how proficient they are. They want to practice so that they stay good, so that when they go to requalify, they can requalify. And hey, when you get 2 or 3 guys together, competition comes in. All right, let's see who can do this. Let's see who can do this the faster, who can get the higher score. The answer to that, his response was, well, no, if you're in law enforcement or if you're studying criminal justice, no, that's not a red flag. And then he said, oh, if you watch videos about serial killers, or you study about serial killers, or you watch the history like the Manson tapes, Ted Bundy, I'm sorry, we're human nature. We're curious creatures. Everybody watches that stuff. That's why those documentaries are so popular. That's why everybody wants to watch it. They want to know what makes a person do what they do. They want to understand evil. That's all it is. These people were evil. They want to understand it better. They said, oh no, well, the mass shooter at Virginia Tech, he was watching all these videos. And then I raised my hand. Again, I'm in a criminal justice course. One of the courses is the study of serial killers. Oh no, well, if you're in criminal justice, then obviously, no, that's not a red flag. So what he's saying, what the FBI is putting out is, if you're interested in these things, or you want to be proficient so that you can protect your life and protect the lives of others and those that you love. If you're not studying criminal justice or in the law enforcement field or in the psychology field, then you're going to be a mass shooter? Think about that for a minute. Only people who are studying criminal justice or psychology, that's the one thing that will dismiss them from being a potential mass shooter? I'm sorry. I'm calling bullshit on that. Somebody doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, because that's just human nature. Now, going back to these red flag laws, people don't understand the slippery slope that is, what it's going to do. We're going to start getting to the point of, if you've never read the book 1984, I highly recommend that you do, because it's explaining a lot of things that are starting to happen. And also Minority Report. So we're going to start criminalizing people for thoughts that they've had. People say, well, we should be able to prevent this. I'm sorry. The reality is you cannot prevent evil from happening. All you can do is react to it, which is why I always carry everywhere I go. Because when things start happening, when bullets start flying, I want to be able to defend myself. And I have two incidences where people always tell me when I say this, oh, you're just being paranoid. Nothing's going to happen. Now, the two incidences that I'm about to tell you, one was at work, the other one was at school. When I was at work, my employer said there are to be no firearms on this property. Now, me working, carrying a firearm for a living, at that time, I wasn't being paid to have a firearm. But I informed them, legally, you cannot tell me I cannot have a firearm in my vehicle. They said, yes, we can. I had to go back and forth and show them the state law in Texas that says, no, you cannot. So they were unhappy about that. About 3 months later, after having this long conversation of, I can't have a firearm, there is a shooting, an active shooter that's literally 5 minutes away from our property. And they didn't know where the guy was. There was multiple reports that he was still there, that he had left in a certain direction, that he was looking for more people to shoot because he was outside of a target when he started shooting down the road. The very first thing that my boss did when he got there was come right up to me, because he knew I was still on duty, and I hadn't heard anything about it because we were working and we weren't listening to the radio. First thing he said as he's walking up to me, do you have your gun with you? I said, yes, it's in my truck. Why? Go get it, put it on, just in case the guy gets here. Okay, so now you want me to have it. Now you don't have a problem with me having it because you want me to protect you. Okay, second incident. I'm at college, and Texas has passed the where we can have on public colleges, we can conceal carry. It's called campus carry. The first day that it went into effect, there was some professor in San Antonio who walked into his class wearing a bulletproof vest, wearing a flak jacket, and wearing a army helmet. He was being stupid. That's plain and simple what it was. Stupidity. My professor knew what I did for a living because I was still working at the time. Knew that I was coming from work to school and then going home to go to sleep because I worked overnight. My professor did not like the fact that I had a firearm, which they could never see, but she knew that I had it on me because we got into an argument over what campus carry actually means, and she tried to make up her own rules, and I was not about to get kicked out of a class that I paid for because somebody else wants to make up their own rules. So, one day, every campus has drills that they do, whether the fire drill, whatever. Now, one of the drills that we go through is there's an active shooter on campus. It's a drill, but they don't tell you it's a drill until 2-3 minutes after it's begun. So when the alarm starts going off, the active shooter starts being going off, the very first thing my professor does, she slams the door, it locks because the door's automatically locked. She turns to me and says, "Get your gun out." I said, "If they come to the door, then I'll get it out. I'm not going to take it out because you told me to." But again, somebody who did not want me to have it, all of a sudden wants me to have it so that I can protect them. That's the wonderful thing about living in America. We have so many freedoms of choices to do so many things, to wear so many things, to say what we want, to do what we want to an extent. But here's the thing that I always tell people who are anti-gun and don't want guns around. They don't want guns in their homes. Hey, that's great. If you don't want to carry a gun, then don't. But do not take away my ability to defend myself and, when shit hits the fan, to be able to defend you. That's just the bottom line of it. I'm sorry. It's the truth. Without emotion, it's the logical truth. Now, I know I'm going to get people that are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. But please, please stop. Every single time there's a shooting, blame it on mental health. It's not always a mental health issue. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And not every single person who is suicidal means that they're going to go shoot up anything. Because if you're truly suicidal and you want to kill yourself, you do not go out and look for victims. You go out of your way to avoid victims if that's what you want. But if you're quote unquote suicidal and go looking for victims, then you're not really suicidal. There's something else there. There's something else wrong. And that is evil. I'm sorry for the rant. I just had to get this out. I hope you will continue to tune in. I'm always willing to listen. If you have an opinion that you want to share, if you want to contact me, you can email me at any time. lostinside.info@gmail.com. Again, that's lostinside.info@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? This is a subject that needs to be talked about. It's something that we need to talk about. So I just had to get this out there. I had to make this special episode because of all the negativity that's been going on social media, all throughout Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and all these things that are blaming mental illness when mental illness is not the problem. Evil is the problem. Thank you. Lost Inside is written and produced by me, Max Power. The music used in the show is from the song How Do You Do by Palais Royale, a band that has helped my daughter to deal with her mental health afflictions. I do not own the rights to any of the music used here. Thank you for listening, and until next time, to quote two wise dudes, be excellent to each other and party on.